Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki's hand here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And how am I talking even though I'm not? I'm just a hand? It doesn't matter because I lost my body. That was really forced. I'm sorry. Man, this film is really deep, it's really complex, it's really emotional, it's kind of a head trip. So I just wanted to start things light, Dragon, because we're going to have a conversation tonight about the Oscar nominated, Academy Award nominated animated film, I Lost My Body, a French film. And we're going to have a conversation that Matthew Buck would love, Dragon. We're going to have a conversation all about symbolism because this is honestly one of the most symbolic movies I've ever seen. Dragon, I honestly, I watched this, maybe 5 days ago or so. And I was blown away by it, man. I was really swept up in it. I do think this kind of has the same quality as something like Fantasia, where it's just kind of using the medium to the best of its ability, pushing it forward, telling the story, pushing that storytelling along with just that sort of like doing stuff that would just be preposterous in live action. And that's my favorite type of animation. And Dragon, I must admit, I'm not all that familiar with French animation. The closest I've ever seen to French animation is the Triplets of Belleville, and that's honestly a really fun movie. But man, this is just French expressionism, man. And I am very into this to the point where right now I am team Netflix all the way when it comes to best animated film at the Oscars this year. I honestly think if Klaus or this doesn't win best animated film, I'm going to be rather disappointed. I mean, not to poo-poo How to Train Your Dragons 3. Don't get me wrong, How to Train Your Dragons 3 is great. And Missing Link is, probably the worst Leica movie, so I'm not going to be jumping for joy if that one wins, in all honesty. But yeah, the Netflix duo, Dragon, the Netflix dynamic duo. Like, what the hell? Netflix really planned this out well because they're just like, oh, Disney, you got your cute little streaming show with your Jeff Goldblum and your Imagineering story and your 8 episodes a year Mandalorian show. Hold my beer. I'm gonna, bam, Marriage Story, bam, The Irishman, bam, these two animated films, and that's just the theatrical side of things. We got BoJack coming up in just a week or so, Dragon. I'm hyped about that. Anyways, Dragon, I'm going to throw it over to you. I'm very excited to hear your thoughts, and I think they might be more polarizing than my thoughts. What are your thoughts about I Lost My Body, Dragon?
Of course, I Lost My Body, kind of the foreign outlier nomination for the Oscars. So, of course, it's what if a severed hand was alive and on a journey to find its owner and retained a sense memory motivating the journey. So, it's quite fascinating. I think this film embodies kind of the core philosophy of animation. We definitely see that at play. The French really go for it when it comes to animation. Of course, visual medium, especially if you're trying to have a movie for everyone. And of course, I think the film's very visual, very evocative. Evocative is like it's kind of a banner word for what this movie is, man. It's evocative in every wonderful sense of the word. Sense pun anyway. So this, it's like you may look at first glance. You may look at this. You see, okay, you look at the poster of this movie. Okay, basically the gimmick of the hand, and you're thinking, okay, this may look like thing from the Addams Family at first glance, but
It
it's not.
really does feel like a super art house. Like, okay, Dragon, you know those Muppet parody posters that you see in Muppet Vision?
Yeah.
And like the idea of like the Swedish chef in in the Seventh Seal and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon, this is basically that movie personified, but with Thing from the Addams Family. It's like a super serious art house movie, but we basically got the same exact like sort of character gimmick that Thing has, the personified hand thing.
But that's
But
what
it's
I'm
like, what
saying.
if Thing had an emotional backstory?
Precisely. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm sure the movie could have been still as well animated if it were a little bit more kind of upbeat and cartoony with the hand. They could have gone that route, but they didn't. They really went for it with the emotional kind of gravity, and they really respect the materials. Like, what if we really went for it? What if we kind of took this opportunity again? It's a hand, but we're not going to make it all cartoony and fun. What if we took a severed hand, but we looked into kind of what that means, and we really go for it, not wasting this feature-length opportunity for the medium, and it's quite remarkable.
You feel emotion for fingers, Dragon. Finger acting.
Yes, it's a very it's a very gestural film, one could argue.
All right, so Dragon, set us up with some backstory, my friend.
Not a whole lot here. So basically, there was a book released. I want to say 2006. Years ago, there was a book released called Happy Hand by Guillaume Laurent. Guillaume Laurent wrote this book called Happy Hand, and Jeremy Clapin, who was the director of this film, he he was working on an adaptation of this book since 2011. Again, there's some negotiations, basically figuring out, okay, how are we going to do this. There's a question: do we want to do in live action with CG hand? Do we not want to do it? I don't know how seriously that was entertained. But basically, he's been asked in the interview circuit about could this movie be done in live action. I think he's kind of intimated that they talked about it and that didn't end up happening. Point being, for the director, the sell of the book, and like, let's adapt this into film in some variety, is of course the POV sell. Like let's look at it from the hand's perspective. That's the big sell. Like, man, this is a story worth telling. Now, interestingly, Clapin here, he was his backstory is that he was an artist who longed to do film, not particularly animation, but he kind of found through the medium of animation, kind of combined both mediums for this kind of opportunity. Like, okay, let's do it as a basically let's make this easy on ourselves, but also a little bit poignant. Let's animate it; it'll look better, and get to do my feature length film. I think this might be his first film. I'm not sure. And basically, the way he frames it, he calls it his own words. That he's defined this movie as a modern fairy tale where the central themes are destiny and resilience. It's very. I think you can obviously see that by kind of the trauma of the severed hand, and of course, like the paths of destiny and all the metaphoric goodness. And this the last thing. So he really strived for a creative freedom, and from what I understand, I believe his own studio did, and then Netflix got involved in the aftermath and the distribution. So Netflix didn't make this movie. We'll make that clear.
No, not at all. Netflix picked it up.
Exactly, but Netflix has good taste. Let's not glaze over that. The point being, Netflix was involved in the aftermath, but you going forward, I mean, after the success of this with the distribution and everything, he's unsure. He's unsure about going forward, like doing something for Netflix from the start, because this guy really strives for creative freedom, and he would worry about doing it under the Netflix banner, because again that might limit him in a creative capacities, and Netflix might have notes for him, which honestly I don't think they would do. But again, he's open to it.
I really don't think so either.
That's what I'm saying. He's thinking about it. The point being, I think the release of this, and again, if it gets the Oscar, I'm sure Netflix like, please, we'll give you all the freedom you want. We'll give you bags of freedom.
I mean, honestly, look at God, what was that Dan Gilroy movie?
You mean Velvet Buzzsaw?
Yes, that was basically just like, hey, you made Nightcrawler, we'll give you all the monies. And then I honestly don't. I still haven't had the heart to watch that, Dragon. I really don't have the heart to watch that. Anyways, so it could go horribly wrong. You never know.
Oh yeah.
All right. So, Dragon, we're going to talk symbolism!
So, folks, you may think we're talking the first Doctor Strange movie with all the hand talk we're going to be giving you folks, but just because this movie can be defined as hands.
All right, to be fair, Dragon, I think there's more to it than that.
There is. I'm just saying. I mean, if you have there's so much hand symbolism, so much brilliant stuff done with hands. It is kind of hands.
All right.
No, but seriously, I mean, again, I said, when I called this the hand movie, I didn't mean that in a complimentary way. I was already sold like the animation premise of, okay, we follow a hand movie, but I didn't, again, it has like tremendous meaning to the hand as well. So there's nothing bad with a hand movie. All right.
Okay, so yeah, with the hand itself, with the symbolism, Dragon, we're going to sound so pretentious with this conversation, but it's okay. It's okay.
A while here. Oh boy, there's folks. We're again for the next hour or so. We're going to be really doing a deep dive into the symbolism and the metaphysical context of this movie.
All right, so what do you think the hand overall, Dragon? The hand to me, this is going to sound super pretentious, and I'm sorry, but it kind of represents sort of like how you build your life, how you influence your life. Like what your hands, what you can do with your life. And when one of your hands is missing, that represents a missing part of yourself. It represents potential, essentially.
Well, I think that is a very key part of the film for sure. Yeah, potential is again. So destiny is again, as I mentioned in the background. So destiny is a huge factor of this movie, and destiny is very much seen through the hand. Here, and that like the theme of destiny is the starting place of the hand, and that we assume like well, think about this. With the hand, like this is the only kind of plot hole I see in the movie, but it's a plot hole for the sake of we need a story here where I assume the hand just can't be reattached. Or 9 times out of 10, at the very least in film, and again, this might be credit to the movie. Right? Well, realistically, not every time a limb gets cut off, not always can it be reattached. I think that I'm going to give them realism points on that one, but I don't know. It's just kind of like we never addressed like so the hand just it's in a lab, but no one thought to because obviously the hand was present when it got separated. People saw that the gruesomely the hand is right there. But apparently just ended
By the
up in a
way,
lab.
Dragon, I was actually kind of worried about you because I knew you have a thing for, for disattached limbs. So how do you hold up on that end with this? I'm curious.
I was the scene itself I could not watch during the separation scene, but
I don't
no,
blame you.
the idea. But I mean, we have really gross medical stuff at the start of this movie, too, with the eye getting stepped on, like that sort of stuff. Man, it was much. It was a lot. It was a lot. And I'm really basically it's the most tense movie. There are
Dragon,
super tense.
if the whole movie was like that, I definitely would have not recommended the movie to you.
But that said, as well as just my kind of my fear, my just kind of my bothersome about just limbs and fingers and stuff being separated and hands obviously not helping in that regard. There are some tense moments in the perilous journey with the hand. It also speaks to the animation. And for me, the most tense moment in the movie, not counting the actual separation, the rats in the subway.
Oh God, the rats were terrifying. I hated that. It gets under my skin. I mean, when I say I hate it, I don't obviously mean like, oh, it was bad.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, like, it
wonderfully
really
animated. It's
just
just
left an
really
impression.
it's effective and tense. It's super tense, man. I'm like on the edge of my seat during that scene. It's like, oh god, it's so horrifying.
You know what? In an entirely different way, also the ants.
Yeah, the ants is another horrifying. It's not quite as horrifying as the rats, but it is disturbing. Yeah.
It's more psychologically horrifying.
It is. It is because I think like they're trying to bite them too, which is really that. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Oh God.
Anyways, back to the symbolism. So we assume so the point being the destiny is we assume the hand can't be reattached, and there might be kind of a theme attached to that. That basically you can't go back to the status quo being kind of the message there. You can't go back to the way
Exactly.
things were. There's not an easy fix. Like destiny, basically the destiny of the hand is to be inanimate in a lab. Think about it. We start the movie off. It's a hand in a lab that is not intended to come back to life. So that was his destiny. That's the end of your journey. But the hand is fighting against destiny. And that my destiny, as he defines, as the hand defines it, is to be back with my owner. But again, ultimately, the truth is that the hand needs closure, and it needs closure, it needs catharsis, which means it needs to find its way back to the owner. So that's why the hand comes. One could say metaphorically, that's why the hand, symbolically, that's why the hand needs to come back to life. It needs catharsis. There's unfinished business, which kind of ultimately frames the whole movie. Talking about the framing with the whole thing, there's a mystery of like how did this happen, like how does a hand separate from the body? I imagine a sharp implement comes into play, but we don't fully know all the ins and outs.
Well, I like how as the story of Nafuel goes on, we kind of as soon as the wood shop element of it comes in, we're just like, oh dear.
Yeah, you the audience are putting the pieces together. That's the same. I love how for the hand and for us the audience, like the fundamental questions of the film that are framed at the start are, where am I now, and what's next? Basically, I'm sorry. It's how did this happen? Where am I now? And what next? That's kind of like that's the mystery set out for the movie. So it's like
My dinner with Andre, Dragon. My dinner with Andre.
There you go.
You know what I'm talking about with my dinner with Andre?
I vaguely yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to quote this because it's very French. I believe this is a French quote. Basically, My Dinner with Andre kind of has a quote that Andre Gregory gives. The three things that each great actor should look for in
Mhm.
crafting their character. Who am I? I what is it like?
Who am I? How did
Who
I get
am
here?
I? Where did I? Yeah, no, yeah. Okay, you got it. How did I get here? Where am I? I'm sorry. It's where am I? How did I get here? And where am I going?
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyways,
Essentially, that's the motive of the hand, which kind of parallels kind of the old acting philosophy. You could frame it as. So that's interesting. But yeah, so we convey. Of course, let's talk about the animation of the hand. That the biggest thing the movie has going for, with the whole evocative theme of the movie, is that we convey touch in animation and sense memory so well.
oh my God, yeah.
It really paints a picture. We establish the history of the life that has been lived, and kind of and
I
basically, honestly,
love the editing in this movie. The editing in this movie is freaking flawless to me. The way that we bounce around non chronologically.
yeah, the split perspective is really interesting because we have two perspectives. Because basically, ever since the hand was separated from the body, we have two perspectives. But again, they're the same person, which is really trippy.
Hmm.
That's the thing, they are the same person, but again, basically, the idea is that the hand is the younger version of Naufel, and Naufel, of course, is kind of like the one who's been going through kind of the arc of the story in adulthood. But that's the idea. The grand idea, because remember, I believe the first thing we see of the hand is we always see a young hand. We don't see the hand is when we see most of the hand stuff is in black and white when he's a younger man, when he's a kid to when he's a baby and all that sort of stuff. And the idea is like, so basically the whole movie is kind of a metaphor for growing up. That's essentially what the whole thing's a metaphor of. And essentially, again, the hand's the younger perspective, and the memories and the flashbacks. It's all in the past. Where now fell in the separation. Ever since the separation, he's been given perspective. I think that's kind of the idea. So the hand is kind of like question: Is the hand is it his own character? Is it purely memory? It's kind of basically, if I had to pare it down to this, Tiki, it's a feature length Phantom Pain. That's what the movie is. There's a question: Is the movie like a feature length Phantom Pain, where basically when you're thinking of when you had your hand, we're seeing that through his eyes of what the hand would be going through while he's sleeping.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, like we see the sand, we see
And
the
then of
falling.
course as we sorry, as we get into the the woodshop stuff with Nephilim backstory, Dragon, it basically becomes Jaws with a sawmill.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, I've heard so many woodshop stories, which you can imagine. I would stay. If I ever had to step into a
I
woodshop,
hated woodshop in school, Dragon. I don't know about you.
I never had. I didn't have to do woodshop per se. That's something that
I
was kind
dropped
of like
out
what
of it half a semester in. Half a semester in, I transferred.
I think I stepped into a. Bonus. I've been the proximity. I've never had to use a saw, but I've been in the proximity of it, and I would steer clear of it. Obviously, for my own fears of like, oh god, the worst thing I could ever imagine would be losing,
Right?
be losing any of my parts.
I just vividly remember in eighth grade being like, they're letting 13-year-olds deal with this equipment. Why? Like, as a 13-year-old myself, I was wondering that.
So
Anyways,
something really interesting too is I love the conceit, and again, this adds the whole phantom pain theory of like if the whole movie is kind of a phantom pain. It's like a phantom pain, whether it's a literal phantom pain, just kind of made really artistically expressed. I love that no one but a child and a blind man, who again the hand is never quite seen, and the only person it's technically seen by is a child. Which again, if the hand's supposed to be the child or the younger self, a little symbolic. So again, it lends itself to the
more
whole
like
metaphysical.
Fantasia pain, am I right?
Yeah, yeah. I
I'm
love the.
sorry.
I like the mole on the hand as an identifying touchstone, as an even if basically, so it's not just any hand. I love that we kind of see when we see now Fel, we see a little mole on his hand. So again, we can kind of make the connection to, which is kind of that was an obvious connection to make. But it's kind of like a little nice visual reminder.
So what's the mola symbol for, Dragon?
Well, again, the mole is that's the connect between the two of them. It shows you it's the same hand.
I'm just kidding, Dragon. I'm literally just kidding.
Well,
Please don't
Tiggy,
answer
don't frame it
that.
like that. You know I'm going to look for meaning if you give me the opportunity.
I'm sorry.
I'll make the argument.
All right.
All right.
Look, we've got to move on at some point from the hand.
I know,
All
but
right,
remember,
I
the
was
hand's a
basically
huge
doing
the
a
hand's a
self
huge character
parody.
in the movie. I know we're gonna move. I'm just saying, yeah, the hand is gonna the hand's gonna be the is the crux of the movie. So we're gonna move. Things should be moving faster after the hand, is what I'm saying. All right.
All right, so let's move on to the main antagonist of the movie, which is also the main antagonist of life, as I've learned as someone who's verging on 30. It's time, Dragon, and time is represented by the fly. Time, and more specifically, unaccomplished goals. Unaccomplished goals. Underline that. That's the theme of the fly. That's the symbol of the fly in a nutshell for me.
Yes, it is. Of course, the fly kind of the playful challenge by his father, just kind of like the teachable moment that he was never, in a sense, again, it's not like a hugely negative sense. It's like he was never able to kind of impress his father with the fly catch. It was kind of a life
Yeah,
lesson.
it's like you kind of feel bad for the father because the father's just kind of like trying to like play this game with him that kind of is a life lesson, and then Nafuel just like really takes it to heart, like, oh God, it kind of like defines his whole life and his how he judges himself in a way.
I mean, in a sense, it's kind of the taunting author of all of Naufel's pain in life is this fly.
And of
Yeah,
course, Dragon, of course, breaking bad vibes up the wazoo with this.
of course. The
I mean,
fly
come
kind.
on.
Remember, the hand is very dexterity is also a big thing in the animation. The whole motivation of all the hand stuff, within all like the things the hand can do, and the idea is that Naufel was had a lot of dexterity, and that he played the piano, did all this sort of stuff, and the idea is that this is why the hand, in theory, again, like through the magic of movie making, if there's any logic here, is that that's why the hand's so mobile, and that's why the hand's so kind of clever and moving from place to place. That he was now if I was good with his hands, as the whole woodshop thing will kind of show you later on.
Sure, sure.
He was good with his hands, and again, as good as his hands as he may be, again, he can't catch that darn fly, which of course this kind of drives all of that, and of course drives the severing of the hand later.
That darn fly is the interdimensional cable version of that darn cat.
But also, the fly, the first image of the movie, it's
Not
the
even going
fly
to
surrounded.
acknowledge that joke, are you?
Nope.
All right, fair enough.
Oh, seriously, the fly's the first image of the movie, which is kind of interesting.
uh,
But again, time is again
and it's
time.
also like even before the image, it's the first thing you hear over the credits.
Oh yeah. Of course, sense is being really important, especially what we hear given how the movie ends. But yeah, certainly. Okay, so speaking of things that fly, let's talk about the pigeon.
All right, man, the pigeon is honestly one of the more tough themes to really nail down, so I'm going to throw it to you first. What do you think the pigeon
Well,
represents?
pigeon, outside of just being a really eerie moment where he just kind of accidentally snaps this pigeon's neck. It's basically I read
Right, Jesus Christ.
so I read the pigeon as is a violent and haunting act in that it leaves death, destruction, and aftermath, and it parallels a little bit to the violence that the hand is capable of. In that now felt at his low point when he's getting drunk at the party, his cousin's party, he gets into a fight with a guy and he really goes to town with his hands. So I think maybe we paralleled a little bit of that, a little bit of the violence that you're capable of there. But more importantly, what it really is that again, when he kills the pigeon. We saw the pigeon had eggs, so the basically it's the death of a parent, which of course connects to Naufel, death of a parent. There's the survival. We see survival instincts at play here. Naufel's whole journey is again it's surviving after a trauma, but more importantly, surviving after he survived the car accidents. That's more so what basically it's an allegory for the car accident. That's what the death of the pigeon is. It's the whole thing of he was the survivor. Um, it's it's also that there is also like kind of the death of the eggs. One could I'm gonna get really I'm sorry. It's gonna sound really pretentious. Forgive me.
Go
It's
ahead,
just
go ahead.
the
It's
death
fine. We
of
we
the
warned people
eggs.
up front that this
The
conversation was going to
really
be like that.
the really creepy thing is that when the pigeon's fluttering around, it accidentally like cracks and probably kills the eggs. So again, the death of the eggs is the loss of childhood innocence, the loss of childhood. So
Oh,
one thing,
Dragon, I mean, this movie is very much the loss of childhood innocence. I mean, it is in a nutshell.
I'm just saying it's yet another example of it with the whole pigeon set piece there, where again it's a lot of there's kind of some death, but accidental death that kind of comes out of nowhere that really kind of shocks and awes you, which again kind of connects to Naufel's pain in his past and what we ultimately build to with the whole like how exactly his parents died.
Hmm. All right. Let's kind of pair up the next two if you don't mind,
Mm.
because I do think they very much mirror each other. So the pianist and the astronaut.
So of course, now Phil, he kind of in his childhood he was kind of trained to be a piano player, but he also longed to be an astronaut. So he's going to be like, as every kid thinks of at a certain age, I'm going to be everything. I'm going to be an astronaut pianist. I'm going to play the piano on the moon.
Dragon, I'm going to be a movie directing theme park designer, my friend.
Yep.
I still have ambitions for that. I'm still a kid at heart, Dragon. Gotta believe. Gotta hold on to that dream. Anyways, sorry. Go ahead.
So you look at the piano, of course, that's kind of the artistic side of him, where again, that's kind of the, it's a respectable profession. His parents, I assumed his parents came somewhat from money. They seemed a little like they mentioned. I think they were, I think they were involved in. I think his parents played an orchestra. I think that's what the deal was because they were on their way to, a party, and I think they mentioned a cocktail party. I don't know why I assumed the piano connected to a musical thing. I don't know. I might be reading into that one. The point being, I assumed they were people with money going to parties. I was like, yes.
They definitely seemed like people of money. I don't know per se if we got confirmed as to what they did. I don't really think it mattered, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were. I wouldn't be surprised if they were concert folks, though. If they were, like what's the word? People in a symphony. I'm really brain farting on this word here, Dragon. I'm sorry.
Right. Anyway. So the point being, they were the most likely people of means, and the point being, they would respect like a job as a pianist, and that's kind of what they going into that. But honestly, the other great thing is that it's also the dream job for a hand. You get to be a concert pianist as hands, man. You get to you get to play the piano. It's like that's a dream job for a hand. It's safe. You get to show off a little bit. It's quite nice.
Yeah, you get to show off your artistic side. It's certainly better than being like a guitarist fans because I imagine that would be a lot more painful.
Yeah, again, you're in more control too if you're like kind of a sentient hand, if you want to look at it that way. But no, seriously, I'm just looking at. I don't mean this to make light of that, but seriously, like if you're a hand, the point. Then also the other thing is piano, black and white, and of course the flashbacks, black and white. So complements the black and white memory conceit, as well as the astronaut's color scheme.
Astronaut, I was going to say, you know what else is vaguely black and white, Dragon?
The astronaut. So the astronaut. So the touchstone of the astronaut is really fascinating on the rewatch. The action figures holding the action. So again, another touch thing. He was touching these. The hand was holding the action figure for the astronaut. And of course, the astronaut, very imaginative occupation. It complements the premise for the metaphysics of it all. We have the solitude of a man in space. And of course, solitude and just kind of like these wide open spaces where you're alone and you're just kind of like left to your thoughts in a spectacle, which of course is going to connect to some later stuff with the Arctic.
Yeah, I have a harder time nailing down the astronaut symbol because I feel like it's a more prominent symbol than the pianist, but I feel like it's a more abstract one because it kind of represents like it represents more of sort of like a more of a red-blooded American kind of idealism. Even though this was made in France, I know still the image of the astronaut is a very American image. I feel like.
Well, Tiki, honestly, I think it's a lot simpler. You know what I think it is?
What?
I think it's like going into the unknown. It's going into the future, which again, it's like it's the dream of like an ill-defined future. It's like the space ground. We don't know where we're going, but we're going up, man.
You know what? That's a way better version than I have. You're right. Let's go with that.
So you have that, and you have the practical job of a pianist, where it's very achievable, and again would reward a hand. Where you have you go in the space, which again is cool. Don't get me wrong; it's a long shot because they only pick so many astronauts, and we don't know where we're going beyond that. But it's something. I think it's like something. This is going to sound weird. I think it's something the hand respects, but the hand doesn't quite want because going into space, it's a little bit more.
I like that. That's a good take. I like that. Yeah. You hit on that. That's a good thing to hit on right there.
Yeah, and again, you got to remember
because I feel like that is a good theme of Nafuel's story. Is that there's a lot of stuff that he's like kind of striving for to please other people, but that he might not necessarily want in his own right.
Certainly. All right.
Dragon, also really quick, I just want to have this conversation as just kind of like a casual podcasting talking point. Did you ever subscribe to the whole like classic little kid I want to be an astronaut thing?
Are you asking me, did I ever want to be an astronaut?
Yes.
Well, yeah, remember, I did love Buzz Lightyear, Tiki, so I mean, I, I flirted with it, and when I realized, honestly, I think at a certain point I realized it wasn't going to be as glamorous, like, basically astronauts don't have jetpacks. I think I kind of, that.
Dragon, I gotta tell you, I'm one of those people where, like, from day one, I was like, astronaut, not for me. Like, it seems like I don't know. I never bought into the whole like I want to be an astronaut thing as a kid. I thought it was
I mean,
I
you can
honestly
imagine
still
the
think it.
cowboy dream also got a little, like, unglamorous, and you realize, like, there's not much call for cowboys when you think about it.
God. Right, right. Okay. Anyway, so let's move on to fast pizza.
Yes,
Which
so,
honestly,
fast
Dragon,
pizza can...
hold on, sorry. Out of all the symbols we're talking about, I feel like this one is less of a symbol and more of a plot point, but it's an important plot point.
If you want to look for some symbolism within it, it's a hand delivery job, first off. More
That's
accurately,
funny.
yeah. More accurately,
I'm
what it is
sorry.
that it's more accurately what it is that it's as you said earlier, it's now Phil, living up to your potential was a central theme of the movie, and the pizza job is like, he's not living up to his full potential compared to where his career path was aiming for, the whole pianist astronaut thing, where he's not living up to his full potential. Um, he Yeah, I always imagined, my logic was that he went with his uncle and his cousin, and they I would assume they were not people of means. I would assume his uncle was not a man of means, and I'm not saying that purely like clipped his dreams. I'm saying I imagine it's a little bit of that, but also less support in like pursuing your dreams. I kind of maybe kind of let him down to kind of the fast pizza route. Practical job support.
By the way, I really like how realistically dickish his cousin is.
Yeah, that's the thing. So that's what I'm saying. I feel like he's not in kind of like he's not quite as supportive an environment that he was in his childhood. That was my sense.
Uh-huh. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, you definitely like he's pretty much moved on from like upper class to to like sort of a slum, if you will,
pretty
from
much. I
living
mean,
conditions that we saw.
like the minute he walks in, he has to put change in the jar, which it's just sad. Just kind of sad. So, most importantly, the big thing with Fast Pizza is that it brings him, to his quote unquote love interest in the movie, Gabrielle, who, by the way, played by a Pee Wee's Big Holiday alumni, Aaliyah Shawkat, the one who's the other Pee Wee in Pee Wee's Big Holiday. Remember her?
Kind of.
The girl that Pee Wee's love interest in the movie, the girl with the white sweater. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Point being,
Oh yeah. I know who you're talking
well, I
about.
think
Now
she had
you're
a really
saying, okay,
good.
I'm sorry,
Oh
we
yeah,
should
you're
have
right.
said that we should have talked about this up front, Dragon, but I watched the because I'm sophisticated, I watched the subtitled version and you watched the dubbed version,
Now,
Dragon.
to be fair, I did. Here's the thing. I watched the dubbed version, but I had the original subtitles. Basically, what was going to pop up on the French version, I did have that. So I got two versions at once.
Mm, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's not good enough for me.
Well, my version
I'm
had
sorry.
George.
I'm literally. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had George Wendt in my version. I had Norm in my version.
And Dev Patel.
Yeah, yeah, Dave Patel, man.
Did you just call him Dave
No,
Patel?
I said it too quick. I meant Dev.
I'm sorry.
Anyway. Okay. Anyway.
It's like the super version of Dev Patel.
Yes. Yeah, okay. Anyway.
Hey guys, I've sold out and completely given up on my Indian roots.
All right.
I'm Dave Patel now.
I get
All
it.
right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Anyway, back to Gabrielle. The whole Gabrielle plot point here. So, for the most part, this relationship.
Honestly, I'm stalling because the Gabrielle plot point just really depresses me.
Okay, well, and basically, we're going to talk about at least a part of the Gabrielle stuff. Obviously, a lot of it's
Uh-huh.
going to come in place for the next thing we're going to get to. But first off, what I really like about in relation to the whole fast pizza thing, I like that for the most part, it's a relationship not founded on touch, but by the other senses, by speech and sound, by the intercom. They connect via the intercom. Like, they don't meet each other. Technically, well, not for a while. Well, the point being that when they first meet through the delivery job, it's through intercom. But however, activated by the press of a button, so touch is somewhat involved. Both have to push a button, so it's something.
Exactly.
All right, so let's move on to the igloo, because I think it's going to encompass a little bit more here. So the igloo, of course,
Oh
symbol
god,
of
the
ice.
igloo breaks my heart. It's a symbol of just like oh man, it's like ambition in the wrong direction, I guess you could say, Dragon. Would you like wanting to there's a lot to unpack with the igloo, my friend. I mean, as you can imagine, Dragon, with like a very short form relationship like this that ends with a disaster and misunderstanding, like you can imagine that I felt some stuff with this.
I had a
Let's
feeling it
just
was going to
say,
be your severed hand. I had a feeling.
yeah, it was my severed hand. It was my emotional severed hand. Yes, it was. Oh, it was tough to watch. But having said that, Dragon, I fucking dig. I love how realistic this relationship is and how it's not a Hollywood relationship that ends all sunshine and rainbows. That's what makes me love La La Land so much, and that's exactly why I fell in love with this movie. It's hard to watch, it's painful, but it's life.
It's accurate.
Man.
So yeah. So again, the igloo, just to talk about it here. So the igloo, of course, symbol of isolation, solitude.
Uh-huh.
The solitude that Nafel is probably feeling ever since the loss of his parents. Is kind of like going through again, like kind of in a non-supportive environment. But also, it represents the road less traveled. That again, he and both Gabrielle, they would love to go to the Arctic. They love to explore kind of the globe, but they really don't have the means. You're kind of landlocked to certain places in life. And of course, going to the Arctic would be one. I'm talking about polar bears and igloos and so on and so forth. Of course, it's kind of a connect. It's an image they share from the library where she works. Where, they kind of look at the book. They kind of spend a moment there. It's I love the sound demonstration. The sound demonstration, like you ever want to like be someplace that you're not, you basically put your hands over your ears. Which again, we're connecting it back to touch and a thing with the hand, where the hand you put the hands over your ears and you kind of create like the whistle sound if you wanted to, like you're in the snow.
Uh-huh.
And of course, the gesture on the roof. So ultimately, so we should talk a little bit about Gigi here, because Gigi doesn't really pop up much. And again, Gigi voiced by, at least it's depending on what version you watch, George Wendt.
Yeah.
By the way, George Wendt, I met him at that HorrorCon. I met him briefly though. He was cool.
Nice.
Anyway, point being this, so he meets her uncle as a way of meeting her, and essentially his mistake was not just like getting a do-over on like the meet and greet with the girl. That was his biggest. That was his undoing. He didn't just like actually introduce himself the second time. He just had to go with the pizza guy. He couldn't just say, "Oh yeah, it's." He couldn't play the surprise. If he played the surprise, he would have been fine.
So what you're saying, Dragon, is that was his mistake? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Always have to take it back to Callahan, don't you?
I'm just ripping off Schaeferella's, man. It's not my joke.
Anyway. Okay. Anyways, the point being, so now Phil, he was basically he was kind of tailing her, and he ended up just trying to save face by just kind of like mingling with Gigi here, and it kind of ended up being an opportunity. So again, it's not as creepy as it came off at the end of the day. How the whole relationship was forged, but again, he did. There was a genuine moment between him and Gigi, where Gigi kind of took a liking to him and kind of took him in as an apprentice, which was quite nice.
Yeah, man. I can absolutely emphasize with this kind of like taking things too far, like thinking that a romantic gesture is just gonna, like really woo the girl and just like, all right, this is it. Like with this gesture, I'm just gonna win her heart forever. And the opposite ends up happening, and you end up losing her, and she just falls through your fingers. And I can totally fucking relate to this, Dragon. It's so painful. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
The gesture is really nice. I love that you built a location you're never going to go to on top of the roof.
That's nice. That's nice. The pizza thing is creepy.
I know. I'm aware.
He should have never done the pizza thing.
That's where again, the simple solution would have been when he just introduced himself, and if he only didn't say he delivered sushi, he said I delivered pizzas. Oh, wait a minute, are you? Like, that thing would have cleared things up. It would have been honest. It would have been like, again, yes, circumstances brought him. They were still a little bit questionable. I mean, come on, he was trying to, tried calling her, and they hit off, and he couldn't go upstairs.
I mean, obviously, like, she must have known that he was unhappy with his job and looking for work.
Mm-hmm.
So,
basically, he just never had that. Anyway, the point being, I like that the uncle led to him like getting a better. This relationship led to him getting the better job, again meeting some nice people, and ultimately again like using the craftsmanship that he learned from Gigi, again applying it towards his hands. He can end up building the igloo on the roof, which is I like how it all kind of lines up there. Of course, when it's snow covered, they have the full effect at the end too. When the igloo's covered in snow on the rooftop, that looks really nice too.
Oh yeah.
So again, I won't talk about the hand's final fate though. So it's basically we're going to jump around a little bit here. So the fate of the hand, it's covered in snow, disappears in snow.
The fate of the hand is that Daredevil defeats them at the end of Defenders.
Well, that's true, but
I'm sorry, I had to work in the hand joke, Dragon. I was just looking for it.
So yeah, like the hand kind of becomes one with the igloo, and it's. Have you ever seen The World According to Garp, or ever read the book?
No, actually, I've heard of it.
Because again, this is kind of a factor in this story, which is I meant to look into a little bit more. I know that Robin Williams did a movie, for this, The World According to Garp. I never saw it though, because it has a really graphic scene in it. Kevin Smith's always made me terrified of this movie. I never checked it out. There's a really graphic dismemberment scene. I just can't.
Oh dear.
Point being, it's I imagine there's a reason The World According to Garp's in there. I don't know if maybe it's a thing of again him painting a picture of what he thinks the relationship's going to end up as, and it being something.
Well, I would assume it would be the graphic, like the dismemberment thing.
Well, yes,
I would assume that would at least have something to do with it.
That too, I guess. It was more of a sexual nature, though, was dismemberment. I'll say that much. But
Jesus. Okay.
That's why I'm thinking maybe there's a relationship component to it. But the point being, I think we fused the two stories in that moment: the separation of body part and the possible romantic. I don't know. Anyway, so let's talk about. So speaking of separation, let's talk about the watch and timing.
Yes.
So if I'm not mistaken, his father gave him the watch, because I think his father had the watch in the flashback, and then we see it on his hand. I think that's what the story is there. So basically, as you said earlier, the fly is a representation of time, and this complements the watch, and then he's wearing both of these things when he gets kind of distracted. A distraction of the past leads to a very, very painful separation. Again, the separation of childhood and adulthood within the two. And I love that when he wears the watch, this is going to sound like a really simple visual thing to pick up on here, but I do like the little nod that the band of the watch visually separates the hand from the rest of the body.
Mm-hmm.
And also, of course, leads to literally gets caught in the machine and then oh god, it's so horrifying.
Yeah. I don't have much to add about the watch because I just I don't know, to be honest with you, I feel like most of what I said about the fly also kind of applies to the watch, the ticking clock element of it all, like how we're all just dragging. I'm 29 years old, and I'm going to turn 30 soon. I'm going to turn, every day goes by faster and faster.
Stay away from saws.
Every day just goes by faster and faster, and days are turning into weeks, or turning into months, and it feels like 2015 was like a week ago, and Dragon, I'm scared. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Well, on the theme of time, if I may, I feel that timing is ultimately Nauthel's downfall at every turn. When you go back in the movie, every turn, timing is his downfall. He's late he's constantly late. He's more late than Peter Parker from Spider-Man 2 during his fast paced.
Go!
That guy's an evil, by the way. He's in the show Evil. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, God.
Off track. Sorry. Anyway. So, he's the delay in the
Is he like
buzzer.
a co-star with Mike Coulter?
Yeah, he is.
Oh wow, that's an
Co-star
odd
Michael, and
pairing.
he's in Premium Rush, the movie I keep telling you about. He's in that too. He has a fun role in that. Anyway,
That's appropriate that he's in Premium Rush.
if I'm not mistaken, he was a Series of Unfortunate Events. I think that was him as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. It was. It was.
It's Montgomery. Anyway, Monty aside here, getting back on point. So again, there's the delay in the buzzer. Of course, remember like the broken buzzer at the apartment, where again he could have met
uh,
Gabrielle. Everything would have gone so better for him had he just figured out the buzzer. When again, until the old lady comes by, like he doesn't learn. Oh, you're supposed to push it with the buzzer. Again, his timing was off by just a little bit. If he could have just, if
no,
he just
you're
gave the
right. You're right. You're kind of illustrating that for me. It's yeah, throughout everything, and then of course his timing with the pizza thing. Um, yeah.
the delay in his life plans from the promising life with his parents to again like the ill timing of again we gotta remember as we do the hand separation we also reveal like how exactly the car accident went down where he where that whole happens and of course that leads to the uncle with less means less support timing of the truth with Gabrielle which again he could have just if he just told her at a different or at least held off on the pizza thing if he just could have gently ushered it in timing is just and of course timing of working with a hangover um, and trying. He finally gets the fly, and as he finally gets the fly in his hand, separated. Horrifying.
Yikes.
Yes. Okay. So speaking of the tape recorder.
I don't really have a lot for this one, Dragon. Why don't you take the lead on it?
The interesting thing about the tape recorder is that this movie is set in the '90s, apparently, and there's the director had a really he had such a brilliant yet simple explanation for this, and I love this. It's set in the '90s, intentionally, for the kind of the more archaic, touch reliant technology. In that, again, if the hand could call Uber, the movie would be over.
Right.
If the hand could text, there's no subtlety. The hand would just text like it'd be like Silent Bob from Shane Silent Bob Review. Nothing against that movie. I'm just saying it would have been like a lot more directly expressed. Like you know, he's like this happy face, sad face, conflicted face, catharsis face, that sort of stuff. Would have been yeah. And again, it makes the hand's journey a lot more practical. More practical with what he's doing and all that sort of stuff. But again, like the tape recorder, the idea being like we have a way of another sense being the auditory sense, which again we can kind of capture through the tape, which again is very touch reliant how we record the messages, and just something just feels right about it. And of course, the tape recorder being the main thing that kind of gets is the parents killed, and it's very incidentally. It wasn't no one's fault per se, but the kid was kind of like getting recordings on the outside world during the car accident. Parents, again, it's tragic, man. It's simply tragic, and of course, I think the biggest payoff of the tape recorder there's an illusion. I thought he was going to kill himself at the end of this movie because of that tape.
Oh God, I did too, and I was pretty terrified. And I am so glad that they didn't. I am so glad it ended on a cathartic note because honestly, if they did go the killing themselves route, it kind of would have been like maybe a little bit of a 13, like granted, nowhere near as bad, but like a 13 Reasons Why sort of like, oh, why are we celebrating this? This is not great. But instead it was cathartic and awesome. So
I'll remind you though, the French are notorious for many films, especially when they go to the film festivals. The French love a down ending.
Oh, I'm aware. I know my way around French cinema, just not French animation per se.
So speaking of our ending, we should talk about the biggest symbol that, of course, hinges on the ending of the movie. We should talk about the crane.
Yeah, I love the crane. I feel like it's an interesting sort of mirror to the to the theme of the fly, where the fly represents everything that we couldn't do in a very pessimistic way, and the crane represents hope. It represents what we want to achieve, but in a hopeful way, in a hopeful kind of like semi-achievable way, where it's like it's right there, it's right within reach. If only we could, just make that leap.
The crane doesn't move. You have to move to the crane. The fly is constantly moving, always like the unachievable goal. Like the crane is a literal leap of faith, and it's basically a choice you have to make without regret. And the whole premise of the crane is that it feeds in that the last happy moment before things derail with the igloo thing it was the two of them kind of having this really prolific conversation about destiny on the rooftop, where it's like, you can't, basically you could fool destiny with an unexpected path and cross your fingers. I see the hand point there, a little cross your fingers, hand connect. You could take the leap of faith and basically just kind of run with it and just see where it goes. Again, kind of getting into the astronaut path of it all, just kind of the unknown future, which could be very hopeful, it could be really positive, and you're not landlocked into kind of a depressing fate that you may find yourself in. So Naufel ultimately he takes the leap, which could end up in going two ways, which again he recorded for either turnout. Either death, which again would be a really graphic auditory suicide note, which would be tragic. Or because I was looking over the edge of that building, man, I was like, oh god, there would be a body, darn it. It's like, but there's going to be either death, or there's going to be death or the hopeful healing path, and ultimately the audio reveals that it all. Again, I love that it all hinges on illustrating, touch, and again, it's the sound of touch, like it's him landing and where he's going to land. You're hearing the touch you're hearing the touch unfold before your very ears, and I love how we kind of connect honestly, it's the two things that bonded him and Gabrielle in the first place. Again, it's the auditory, but also the hands there. So it's kind of the two other central characters of the movie.
Sure.
Kind of bonds them there while they both have kind of reached that moment there. And I love in getting there. This is kind of fascinating too. The hand also took a leap of faith. Remember, the hand had that like glorious umbrella scene. I love that umbrella scene with the hand. Where the hand gets the all clear from the astronaut too. So the hand uses the umbrella to fly across there. But very interestingly, again, he's paralleling Naufel's path, and this is kind of a setup for you too. That when the hand tried something like this, the hand falls, and then we reveal the flashback of what happened with the parents in the car. Point being, hand didn't make it. Hand fell really far. Where Naufel did not. So you're expecting, because of the hand didn't make it, Naufel's never going to make it, man, but he made it.
Now, Dragon, this is the thing that I still have yet to unpack with this movie, and I'm still kind of scratching my head about, and I want to get your take on. Do you think that Naufel, actually made it, or do you think that the scene with him making it is sort of a metaphor?
Well, my read on it is that I think he actually made it. I know you're kind of saying, is it up in the air like a Birdman sort of question? Like, did he?
No, I don't. I mean, honestly, it's yeah, there's a little bit of that. There's go ahead though.
I mean, literally, did he fall or did he not fall? It's kind of the question. Anyway, the point being,
you're right.
No, for me, honestly, the way I read it, because I can only read it like this, where judging by the hand, given the hand's fate, that the hand essentially hears along with the girl that he made, and we, the audience, kind of see that he made. Again, it could always be artistically expressed, but I want to say that the hand sees that he's resilient, that Naufel's resilient, that even missing a part of himself, he's defining his own destiny, he's on a healing path, and that communicates to the hand, your path is over, and that, as we saw, the most important scene in the movie to me might be when the hand finally makes it back to the body. And there's this big, I'm on the edge of my seat wondering how metaphorical are we going to get here. The hand is trying to, as Naufel is sleeping, the hand is trying to connect back to his place on the hand. But Naufel is shifting around, but he can't. So basically, we see a phantom pain kind of artistically communicated in front of us, where you feel like the hand's there, but it's not. And going with the realism of the movie, it will never be that. We can't just have a movie where the hand magically connects there. So that, to me, symbolizes that's Naufel moving past his pain, moving past the past. He's accepted, I'm missing the hand, but I did something for myself, and the hand's journey being over, the hand just resides I'm covered in the snow, I'm covered in the Arctic, I'm covered in the dream. My purpose is fulfilled. His purpose is just beginning. That's kind of, so that's why I realized an actual thing where he actually made it.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, it is for me. I do kind of have a little bit more of a metaphorical approach to it. I kind of feel like it's less about him actually making it or not making it, and more about him sort of realizing that, he can move on with his life, and, this is just one stage in a journey. And, but honestly, with both interpretations, it is kind of pointing towards the same thing, which is just kind of as we've been talking about, this is sort of at the end of the day, just kind of a big coming of age sort of film. And I think the crane, no matter how you read that ending, I think the crane represents sort of, the end of childhood, but in a very cathartic kind of way, in a
Yeah.
very cathartic point, kind of like putting an exclamation point at the end of the childhood paragraph kind of way.
I mean, think about this.
And
I mean, I'm sorry, please go on.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Tell me, like you brought up earlier the astronaut thing, but tell me as a kid, you've never like kind of seen like a big tall thing, or you've ever like you ever like look out the window, and you ever thought like, I wonder if I were like on the adjacent rooftop, would I make the jump? Not that you would ever try, because that'd be crazy, but it's like you ever wonder like, oh god, like what the human body's capable of? Could you ever like make a leap like something fantastically seen elsewhere? Like in a film, a movie, or a book. Like, you ever like imagine like making the leap, making the jump, or like doing something extraordinary? And of course, I think it's a child. My point is like it's a very childish thought. It's a whimsical, childish thought that again, like now, again, that's him leaving childhood behind, but like one last childish act. But again, it's one way to look at it. You could look at it as he had nothing to lose, and it's I'm either gonna die trying or I'm gonna make it, and he made it, hopefully.
Yeah. All right. So final thoughts, Dragon. Yeah, just overall, like I said, I'm absolutely like in the corner of like if Klaus win, I don't know. I don't know. I disagree. I disagree, Gary. In the words of Adam Sandler, but yeah, this is honestly kind of a spectacular work of metaphor and just visual storytelling and symbolic storytelling. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dragon, but I feel like this is the first podcast that we've ever done where it's basically just like, hey, let's take a movie and just explore it all purely through symbols. And I think it worked out well. I think this was a good conversation. So, I mean, it's certainly the least accessible out of the 5 nominees, but I also think it's by far the most artistically relevant. And I mean, I say that like I love Klaus. I love Klaus. I really do. But Klaus is much more of kind of like a return to form of like, traditional animated storytelling, whereas this is something different altogether, man. This was an experience. All right.
For me, again, it's an artful film. I gotta admit, in breaching kind of the accessibility factor, I think for a general audience, I think it's might be a little too high concept for them. I think the animation lovers are gonna go crazy for this movie. I think everyone, their mother's gonna. I think, in a sense, I think everyone, their mother might have an issue with the movie that it's like, I think it's gonna be they're gonna reach a point where I didn't get the ending or something like that. Like he just jumps and he reaches the end of the crane. What does it mean? Like I think it's how you're going to get with a general audience. But seriously, I think I think the animation will definitely carry it. And then of course, I think when you read into the symbolism, I think it really carries it the other way. And not that it doesn't play at all, but it's just that I think I don't think it's for everyone, but I think it's for people who love film or people who love animation. I think they're going to really like it. It's quite great. In regards to the Oscar thing, I'll say this much. I think with the exception of Missing Link, we have a really strong lineup for the Oscars this year. And honestly, if any of the Oscar nominated best animated features that are up there, with the exception of Missing Link, win, honestly, I'd be satisfied. Personally, I want Toy Story 4 to win, but that's just me. But like if Klaus,
I mean, Toy Story 4, it's like if that wins, it's not like I'm not gonna be happy for it, but I don't know. This year I'm really vying for original animation.
Well, that's what I'm saying though, Tiki, is that honestly it's a really good lineup. I mean, the 4 out of the 5 movies were really impressive this year. I don't want to come down Missing Link. I'm just saying.
It really sounds like you are. I'm just saying.
All I'm saying is that Missing Link was good, but I mean, compared to it's no Kubo. That's what I'm saying. It's not a Kubo.
Oh God,
man.
no. Oh, not even.
And I think that's what we're overlooking with Missing Link. I think if it gets, it's going to get because it's stop motion. Because this is the same studio do Kubo, not because of the film itself. And it implies to me the Academy hasn't watched these movies. I mean, you compare it to the other 4 nominees. Again, if any of the 4 other nominees won, I'd be satisfied. That, okay, the best animated, the best one won. These are 4 really great examples of what you can do in animation. You have the franchise, kind of like Ender in How to Train Your Dragon. You have kind of like kind of the unbelievable franchise Ender in Toy Story 4. Like, oh god, they did the impossible. They pulled it off. You have Klaus, this guy's a return the form. Also is like a really feel-good Christmas movie, which again, a Christmas movie nominated for for an Oscar. Let's not take that away too.
Yeah, for sure. That would be yeah.
I want to say Arthur Christmas got it one year, but I mean that's the thing. That would be amazing though. I think Arthur Christmas got it. It was 2000. It was either way. No, it's at least it was nominated. I think Arthur Christmas was nominated. The point being, it's nominated, and we'll see what happens there. And again, this as well. Again, I think it's going to be the foreign outlier. I think that might work. It might work against fair because usually I think you'll notice the foreign films the odds are better stacked in their favor for short films. I feel it's usually where the short film, because again, short films traditionally do not have much dialogue in them, and I don't know. But I'm not saying this doesn't have a shot. I'm just saying I think it really depends on if the Academy is actually watching the movies. This has a better shot than none. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, there's two factors in that conversation that I think this movie has going for it. One, the fact that this is readily available on Netflix.
Yes.
I'm not saying that critics don't have screeners for this, but just the fact that like you don't need a screener to watch this.
Yeah.
And two, Dragon, more importantly, I feel like Parasite is kind of causing this wave of appreciation for foreign films, So I really feel like this is one of the strongest, at least in my lifetime, this probably has been the strongest year for foreign cinema, just based on like stuff like Parasite. I really need to see The Farewell. I've been sleeping on that one. So I really do think that it's not going to be an issue of like accessibility to the Academy voters, because this is a year where a foreign film has just absolutely dominated everything with Parasite. Like, Parasite is kind of dominated over The Irishman of all things. So yeah, I definitely think that the interest in foreign films is way up this year, just in general, based on the presence of that one movie alone. Anyways.
So I guess at the end of the day, I'm rooting for this movie. Am I rooting for it as hard as Toy Story 4? Probably not. But again, if this wins, I'll be clapping for it all the same, man. Like, good for this movie, man. Yes.
Clapping. All right, I'm just gonna end it there. That's a good pun. Have